So welcome back. This is a welcome back to
It is.
Pira Consulting's Hire and Fire. We haven't done one of these suckers in like a year and a half.
Correct.
Amanda, who you will meet shortly, has been in the basement, locked in the dungeon, rebranding our entire effort here. But it is still the Hire and Fire show brought to you by Pira Consulting. I am your friendly host, Jeremy Miller. I run this show, surprisingly. And Amanda is our director of marketing and our female voice of reason. So welcome to the show. Do you want to give like a 2-second intro of you, or what would you like to do? Now that I put you on the spot.
You definitely put me
yes,
on the
hello,
spot.
my name is Amanda Anderson. And
Hi, Amanda Anderson, Director of Marketing. Been working on our marketing since January of this year.
6 full months have flown by.
Oh,
So we were super pumped to bring Amanda in because we basically rebranded our whole website and our digital marketing efforts regarding LinkedIn. And we're doing stuff like rebranding this podcast. So this is episode number whatever. Honestly, I don't remember what we're on. But for our sake, it's basically number 1. Today, we're going to be covering a few different things. We're going to do a little news and notes on staffing because there's a lot of stuff going on. Specifically, this work from home thing, which is a big deal.
huge.
We'll get it. We're going to do a show on that at some point, but not today. I have a fun little hashtag triggered story regarding staffing because inside our 4 walls is interesting to say the least. And then today is our first of 2 episodes regarding resumes. So we're going to go over probably a solid 60% of our content about everything having to do with resumes, length and type and formatting and cover letters and titles and bullet points and you name it. So that's basically the crux of our topic today. But first, we're going to get into what we call staffing secrets, but for today we're cheating and we're going to call it news and notes. So here's a fun one that I saw recently from an article perspective. So in our industry, I put staffing industries in 2 different buckets. I don't even know if I've ever told you this before.
I don't think you have.
Staffing industries in 2 different buckets. So you have the quote unquote temp agencies. These are like the day-to-day, sometimes they're called day laborers. Like we've all probably done this. I know I have. You need a job and you're holy shit, right? Like I need something immediately. You go into a temp agency and they send you wherever. Like almost always an interview is not required. And they're basically temp assignments. Then you have what we do at Pira Consulting, which I call like professional staffing. We do specifically IT, which means it's very technical stuff. So we are deliberately finding very experienced, very particular nuances of technology, whether it be development or infrastructure or whatever. So that's the difference. But this article caught my eye because of this distinction. So it says a majority of temporary workers, specifically employed through staffing firms, preferred to be referred to something other than, quote, temp or, quote, temporary worker. Instead, apparently they prefer to be called consultant, contractor, or associate.
Now, this was a big thing for me when I started here. Do you remember this? Where I couldn't distinguish when you would say client and candidate.
Yeah, we could be talking about a company and you thought we were talking about the job seeker, for
Correct.
example. Yeah.
So it's one that, from my perspective, that was interesting because I've never heard of that term, candidate.
Yeah.
In this realm, right?
Distinction between the 2, yes.
But it makes sense when you look at, because I think you were talking about the pay matters.
Yeah, thanks for burying the lead, huh? Right? So what she's referring to is, it says lower paid and younger workers were less likely to object to the temp connotation, but higher paid and older workers were more likely to object. So for example, it says in particular, while the report found 33% of those earning less than $16 per hour were okay with temp, only 2% of those earning $60 an hour or more were okay with that.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, because it just kind of, the temp word cheapens it.
Yeah, there's a connotation with temp being cheap, a cheaper hire.
Right.
I would never personally think of a temp hire as someone who is making $40, $50, $60 an hour. Like I would never, or higher, or whatever it is. But I would, just in my own experience, would never make that connotation.
Right. So, I mean, naturally, it says only 10% of those 56 and older, so those folks eating off the old senior menu at your neighborhood restaurant.
Blue light special,
Correct.
baby.
Only 56 and older, only 10% of them were okay with it. So it was kind of like an age and a hourly rate differentiator, which is not shocking. So,
do you think when the younger generation gets older that they would still feel that same way? So is it an age thing or a dollar thing, do you think?
This would argue both.
So it'd be interesting.
Good question. I would say I guess it's more dollar than age.
Okay.
But according to this, apparently it's hand in hand. Right. Let's keep on the job front. This next one's fun about we're going to get to one about security, which cracks me up, but we might even do that last. Okay, so jobless claims, this is as of June 17th, 2021. Jobless claims see unexpected increase. So U.S. initial jobless claims, which is basically folks filing for unemployment regardless of the state, it says initial claims increased by 37,000 in the week ending June 12th for a total of 412,000 people essentially in the unemployment line. And they say that's seasonally adjusted. So I'm presuming that means they're excluding the old seasonal workers. So California's up to 15,000, Pennsylvania's up to almost 22,000. Etc. So evidently, maybe it's a blip, but jobless claims were up a little bit, right? Now, and as you would guess, jobless claims are really only people that are either fired or laid off, right? Because if you took another job, then that's irrelevant to you.
Well, I'm wondering though, is this directly or indirectly related to the whole Great Resignation that they're talking about?
Yes.
Are companies finally saying it's time to come back to the office, and people are going,
I don't know, but
that wouldn't really. Well, maybe that doesn't make sense because if you resign, you don't go to the job.
Okay, true that. Okay, you could try, but you're probably going to get rejected. And despite the fact that it sounds like we teed this up, we did not. The next article is about the Great Resignation. So it says surveys show between 25 and 40% of workers are thinking about quitting their jobs, quote unquote. People have had a little more space to ask themselves, is this really what I want to be doing? I totally agree with that quote because it's a combination of like, if I have to go back into the office, do I really want to go back to that hellhole? Or now that I am going back, I have to decide, do I want to go back? And was I only tolerating this because I was remote?
Well,
so I don't know.
From my perspective, though, if a company was saying that they aren't going back, that would be a problem for me. So there's
because you want to be in the office. I'm with you, but I'm just making sure.
Right. Yeah. There's plenty of companies out there that are saying that they're not going back because they can operate the reduced costs of the space they're renting and all of the costs associated with that. The overhead offsets the kind of turn and burn, that's going to happen with having a remote workforce.
Well,
and it was worth it for them, but as a very social creature, which humans are, but some more than others. Some more than others.
Hashtag short circuit, being stuck at home for 15 months.
If you called me tomorrow and were like, we're going straight remote, I'd be like, it was really nice working for you.
And there's a 0% chance I'm doing that.
Correct.
I mean, I love working from home on occasion, but for the most part, I'm just better here.
There are occasions, and there's circumstances where it works really nice. In my previous job, when I would have a ton of client meetings, one after the other, where I just wanted to be in my own space, it worked really well. But anything creative or collaborative, I know it just isn't. It's not the same.
I changed a lot from before starting this adventure, which was now several years ago. But I used to love working from home. But to be honest with you, it was literally avoiding bullshit. So it was a combination of I love my coworkers too. So that has to be said. I loved the people I was working with. So I wasn't hiding from people I didn't get along with. I loved it because I could skip some superfluous, pointless meetings, at least that I thought were pointless.
Sure.
And then just be focused at home or at a coffee shop or whatever. I just wouldn't want to do that perpetually. But there's a hell of a lot of people that do. I mean, I run into people everywhere, you know, where I live or on the golf course this weekend, people talking about like, man, I do not want to go back. So we'll see what happens. But to keep this thing going, 32% of workers, this is a different article, but similar topic. 32% of workers plan to seek a new job over the next several months. Top reasons for searching for a new job were getting a salary boost and greater opportunities for career advancement. Okay, hashtag obvious. But members of Gen Z, which is 18 to 24, were particularly keen on finding a new job, with 55% planning to do so. How about this one? The survey also found that more men, 36%, plan to search for a new job than women, 29%. That's weird.
I wonder why that is.
No clue. No clue. In addition, workers earning less than $50,000 per year are the most interested.
Interested in what?
Interested in finding a new job.
Oh.
So I don't know how much pay has to do with that, but it says Atlanta has the most workers planning to seek new employment, 50%, then followed by Charlotte, Houston, Sacramento in the 40s of percentages.
So all south.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I doubt that's a heat thing, but I guess it could be. I don't know anything about those particular markets to weigh in, but that's what the article says.
Right. I wonder how they get these. Like just
surveys. According to this, it was a Robert Half survey of about 3,000 people.
Okay, so very small pool.
3,000 workers at companies with 20 or more employees.
Still very small.
And that survey was back like late, kind of in the springish, like March and April. So only a couple of months ago.
So this is just a caveat to all of these articles out there right now. Like, that's something that's frustrating. Maybe I'm going to go on a bird walk here for a second. But like these headlines sway people. These headlines,
like it's the flavor of the month right now?
These headlines sway people. They interviewed 3,000 people. That's so tiny. That sample size.
Yeah, but that's every flipping survey, right?
Is tiny. No, some are hundreds of thousands of people.
They're not doing
so.
that.
So to make a blanket statement like that about, even if you interviewed one city and it was 3,000 people, I'd say that's too small of a sample size.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I don't know if you guys hear that, ladies and gentlemen, but she's pissing all over my stats here. So
Not
to
yours.
Continue with my pointless survey statistics, the next one was surveying a total of 4 people, and no. It basically said
I asked my brother.
This next one, right. 65% of small business owners are optimistic that the worst of the pandemic is over. The cool thing about that is the same group were 21 percentage points more negative in fourth quarter of last year. So basically 6-ish months ago, it was different for these peeps. I mean, I personally agree, but you know.
I would say that's the general feeling amongst at least the people that I talk to.
How about this? It noted that 76% of small businesses plan to keep all COVID-19 safety precautions in place. Good luck.
What?
All.
No.
Wow.
That's silly.
Yeah.
I think that's silly.
Yeah. So total
So like temperature checks.
I guess. I don't know.
Social distancing.
Evidently,
masks.
probably. I don't know.
You can't see this, everyone, but I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, she is completely using body language to disapprove, which is great radio. So last but not least, totally different topic, but I absolutely love it. So there's a survey by something called Cyber Reason, which I'm not familiar with, but this survey, or this article at least, is only a week old. So essentially second or third week of June 2021. Found that 80%, check this out, found that 80% of businesses that chose to pay a ransom demand in regards to a ransomware attack, ready for it, suffered a second ransomware attack.
What?
Ready for this? Often by the same group. Who would have thought?
Who could have predicted that?
Note to self, if you pay somebody off for hacking you, you might have motivated them to hack you again.
Correct.
Wow.
This is one of those moments where you go, oh, That's why we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Jeez, so true, by the way.
Exactly. That's not
35% of ransom demand was between $350K and $1.4 million. 7% of the paid ransoms exceeded $1.4 million.
And these are not all like major companies that have credit cards and like
trying to steal customer data per se. Yeah.
Right. Well, like monetary stuff. Sometimes it is the customer data that they're going after. Like,
right.
What are those passwords? Because how many of you, and be honest, how many of you are using the same password on multiple
No comment?
websites?
No
I'm
comment.
just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And or just if you
So
can
if they
get into
can
my
get
Google Chrome, you can find out absolutely every password I've ever saved.
Yes. So it's stuff like that, no matter how small you are. So more on that.
Yeah, we're gonna go. That's true. Well said.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to be doing soon, everyone, is a month on cybersecurity, and we have a few really cool guest speakers and stuff. So this is a huge topic right now. It's all over the place, but
66% of organizations reported significant loss of revenue following a ransomware attack. Shocker. Did you ever get that stupid thing like where it like a website like locks up and it basically says if you just pay $50 it'll go away or whatever?
No. I've not had that.
It's the same thing on the business level. Like, why would you pay for that? That'll happen on my iPhone on occasion, but I haven't had that at work, thankfully. Anyways, there's your news and notes on the staffing business that we have now covered. Our next segment we affectionately call #Triggered. This is where we talk primarily like inside shop on what it's like to either work at or run a staffing business. And this is agnostic of skill set, right? So we just happen to run a IT focused staffing organization, but staffing is a super interesting business because everything we do deals with people, right? So one of the best examples we had recently was one of our sales folks. So we have account managers that call on our major clients, trying to work with the hiring managers, procurement, HR, all of the associated decision-making people and or groups about what the heck jobs they have open. And then the other side of our business is the recruiting side. So if you're a candidate out there, you're normally talking to the recruiter side of our business. And if you hire people, then you probably know what it's like to get called on by salespeople like us. So we had a scenario the other day where we submitted a candidate. So we're working with this candidate. We've talked to him, met with him, have resumes ready to go, talked about a particular job, and we submitted this particular candidate's resume to the hiring manager, and we were informed that we missed the window by 2 hours. So 2 hours earlier, another firm, like one of our competitors, submitted the same candidate. Now, this can happen on occasion. It's frustrating for everybody involved. Sometimes it's super innocent. Sometimes, we'll hear stories of people submitting people's resumes like without their permission, which obviously sucks and is not cool, but that stuff can happen.
Yeah.
But in this case, evidently, he, in this case, had given permission to another firm to present him. Now, a lot of people, especially OCD folks like me, like keep some type of spreadsheet when they're job searching, like where'd you apply, whatever. And there's plenty of people that don't do a damn bit of that, which apparently is you with the look on your face.
Which is me. Of like, you get the call and you're like, shoot, what's that company again? I gotta pull them up. Yeah. What's the job title again?
So we miss out on this. So like in these scenarios in our industry, it's pretty common just for the organization itself, the one hiring, the non-staffing firm, to say like, hey, timestamp of submittal, right? Like we got an email at 10 and we got an email at noon, and here we are. So in this regard, the best part was we reached out to the candidate who it was submitted through another firm, and the quote that we got was, "You guys are all the same, and I can't keep track of you." So if you've ever bought anything in your life and you had to deal with like multiple salespeople, like for me most recently was dealing with multiple different sales guys at like a car dealership. So I'm talking to 3 different car dealerships and I'm getting emails and phone calls from different people and I'm getting confused. So I get it, but that's a little bit of a head scratcher and enough for somebody to want to put their fists through a wall inside of these 4 walls about being told that we're all the same. So there's a lesson to be learned for everybody involved. So if you're a candidate out there, do your best to avoid this. At least try and remember where your resume was presented. And then be as honest as you can with the firms that you may be talking to about this, because we want to avoid it, because at the least, we want to avoid you looking silly having your name presented by 2 separate firms literally on the same day.
Well, and I think, is there a stigma or a belief out there that you should hide from a recruiter if you're working with another recruiter?
Some.
They think that you have to, I don't want to tell them because it'll sway them, or I don't know what the reasoning is.
If they are thinking that, I hope they don't, because we just kind of assume that people are looking on their own, probably talking to other firms.
So just tell us.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
totally
so just
agree.
Tell us.
So this individual's stance was basically a go F yourself, you're all the same, which, okay. But nonetheless, that was a inside staffing #triggered moment for one of my employees who was, let's just say, frustrated by the situation. But hey, we got some honesty out of the guy. So anywho, all right, so on to our main topic of the day, resumes. So we're doing 1 of 2 shows again. We could go nuts on this. I mean, this is literally all we do every day, all day. I've been in the business for whatever the math is, 16, 17 years. Looking at resumes 40, 50 hours a week for that many years in a row. So we have 1,000 opinions.
And I was a hiring manager for quite a few years at my previous company. So I'm coming from it from a different perspective as kind of the client almost of what it's like to have to sift through the resumes and
we've all been a job seeker.
Yeah, and we've all been a job seeker.
Man, I look at my resume that I used to get my first job in this industry, and it was pathetic. But, I've learned a lot, let's just say.
Yeah.
All right, so do you want to introduce the old first topic?
Yeah, this one is fun. This is titled Fuck Cover Letters.
Yes.
Yay!
What do we think about fucking cover letters? All right, so what's your opinion?
Okay.
Zero prep on this. I'm curious of what you say.
Okay. So for me, I, as a job seeker, hate them.
You hate them as a job seeker?
As a job seeker, I find them superfluous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I struggle what to say, and I think it's just fluff. Okay?
Yeah.
However, there's a time and place for them.
Okay.
As a hiring manager, if you do not have direct and clear experience on your resume and you need to bridge that gap of like, why am I applying for this? And
trying to get into something you've never done?
Either never done or is indirect. Like I have the skills, the soft skills, the indirect, whatever it is. Here's how I would apply it. Like if you want to make that bridge and kind of explain your background or explain something funny, maybe you have a gap in employment.
Oh, sure.
Or something doesn't quite make sense on your resume and you're like, hey.
Yeah.
Gonna call a spade a spade. Here's what's going on. Then I think they're valuable. But otherwise, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
I've probably read 2 cover letters that swayed me a different, towards, okay, I'll
That's funny because I think I've read 2 cover letters.
Okay, fair.
Anyways, what swayed you on the completely bullshit cover letter? I showed my cards.
Yeah. You're gonna put me on the spot. I believe it was their candidness. So I really value people being real and candid. Yeah. And so, and they showed their cards. They were honest. Here's the deal. Can I just talk to you, even if it's a 15-minute interview, like let me explain. And I forget how it was worded. I forget.
Did you, but it was enough. Look at the resume first and then go, I don't get it, and then read the cover letter? Or do you think you read the cover letter first? I mean, don't overthink it.
I have no clue. Okay. I usually scan I scan everything, which is where we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I think this is an antiquated process that literally goes back to like fax cover sheets.
But what do you do if
What do you
they
mean?
require it?
Who's requiring that?
There are companies that require it.
Oh gosh.
For online
Don't
now
work
that
for them?
fair point.
I mean, that's silly. Of course, if it's a good job, go for it. But so you're hypothetically saying you're on their website, you're applying to them directly, and it says like upload cover letter and blah blah blah.
Correct, because some of that
and
stuff
you never
they're
know,
so
HR
rigid.
might
They're so
correct.
rigid, especially HR.
I know.
HR is rigid.
You think?
They're so rigid.
It's the group of people that I struggle with the most. It's not really them per se. It's just it's the processes and procedures.
It's their goddamn job.
Well, okay, so especially
like a compliance manager, you just want to be like, fuck.
Literally. So if you're in a if you're in a skill set where HR doesn't get you, right? So first thought, IT like us, engineering, finance and accounting, like legit technical, challenging. They don't really know what you do with a level of ease.
Yes.
This can be a way that they screen.
Yeah.
So I personally have never seen them, but there are like software packages that big companies will use to like do the old Control F keyword searching.
Which is not how you find a good candidate.
No, of course not. So, but hypothetically, if we're sticking with the cover letter scenario,
Sure.
I really don't think you need it.
With the cover letter piece of it though, that's not even what a cover letter should do of like the Control F keyword.
Oh, totally
thing, right?
agree. Totally agree.
Like that's where you get to just speak as a human to another human.
But it's also professional BS and it sounds fancy and you're trying to remember like 6th grade English where like how do I write a paper? I need an intro with 3 supporting paragraphs. You know, you're doing thing.
I would bet a lot of money that anyone who writes a cover letter
copy-pasted it from the internet?
Within 5 minutes of starting that has Googled how to write a cover letter.
Yes. Sorry to step on your joke.
Absolutely.
What else do you do?
What else do you? I mean, I would still do it. If you came in tomorrow and were like, Amanda, write a cover letter.
I need a cover letter.
I'd be like,
first off, huh? And then
that's a weird assignment, but I'm going to Google it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I suppose if we're going like, why would you use one? If you're applying directly with a company and it's abundantly clear that they want one, well then put one together. Are they reading it? Probably not. And you probably already have one from the last time you job searched, so you can just tweak it a little bit.
However, I would also believe that if you have the option to send a poorly written cover letter that you don't care about or no cover letter, then you go with no cover letter.
Skip it.
Skip it. There's nothing worse.
Right.
You will get disqualified so fast with a poorly written one.
Right.
Than just not following the directions if they ask for one.
To conveniently wrap it up, we collectively at Pira Consulting say, fuck cover letters.
Fuck cover letters.
Okay, so the next one that we're going to talk about regarding debating resumes and how to put them together is basically resume length and type. Is that what you have next on your list?
Length of resume, correct.
Okay, so
this is a common misconception out there, I think.
I agree. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? Okay, so mine. All right. So in IT especially, we have people that do contract-based work. So in theory, you could have 20 years of experience and have done as many as like 40 jobs, right? So even if you were concise, if you included everything, you might have a really long resume. How I view it personally, and again, this is up for debate. This is just two people's opinion that happen to be in the staffing business. I don't really care how long it is. I would say some basics. At this point, we're in 2021. Cut everything off pre-2000. That's completely irrelevant. You could also even argue the same thing about 2010. I would say that's going a little too far. So no older than any experience dating back to the turn of the millennia. Shall we call it that?
Well, I read an article that says don't worry about past 15 years.
Okay, so if that's the case, then we're in the 06 timeframe.
They're like, the work you did 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I would hope you've done some more interesting stuff since
Well, I
then.
think that automatically is true, but you do have some random, like, what's the right word? Serendipitous things that could happen, right? Like the way you got into the industry might be interesting to talk about, or maybe the person reading it, you guys worked at the same company years and years and years ago. So there can be some things that come up. However,
that could be added onto a cover letter.
Okay, in theory, I guess. But again, this is
playing.
it's a subjective topic. That's why we're talking about it, right? There's no like automatic right way to do this. But lengthwise, the biggest issue I see with length is more about mile-long individual job descriptions, like literally 29 bullet points for one job.
No.
Don't do that. Because either A, you've been at a job really, really long and you could break it up into a few different things, like you were at worker B and then you moved into a lead job. Or maybe you were at one company and you had 4 different roles. Well, then break it up into 4 different job descriptions, and that's an easy way to fix that. Other times it just makes you look preachy. It's too much for anybody to digest. If the job description itself is too long, the reason why this debate is such a big deal is because, like, all those statistics say 80% of hiring managers don't read past page 1. Now, there's some truth to that, but I think it's a little misread because that's because people care the most about your most recent experience. That doesn't mean that they're not flipping and scanning through what you used to do. So don't fall prey to that stat and go too damn short. But, I think for the most part, going back to what you said earlier, a lot of people are scanning.
I'm a scanner.
Almost everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, if it gets really, really long, we'll get some gripes about that, but you can always just cut it off and then lean on recruiters like us if you're working with them, because we'll give you an opinion. We don't charge for that stuff.
So is it like if we're giving some recommendations to our listeners, like, is it only include it if it was 15% of your job or more? Or
even like bullet point by bullet point?
Right. Like, I don't want to know if you were supposed to, create the meeting agenda once a month. I don't care
good question.
Like, what percent, because at some point you have to be like, well, this is storytelling. Everything comes back to storytelling. So can you tell a story of what did you accomplish? So it's not so much your responsibilities, in my opinion. Some of that has to be in there. But, like, what did you do for the company? You didn't do 16, 20, 30 bullet points worth of stuff. We're like really valuable stuff. Like, what are the big hitters?
Yeah.
Like, what makes them love why you're there?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Okay. Yeah. You're onto something, because I just worded it a little differently, where if you can't tell a coherent story, then it's irrelevant. So, like, even if you only did something in school, like you wish that you had professional experience, but you don't, let's just go with that. You can put things on there, whether it be like at a skills list at the top, which we'll touch on later, but you just have to be able to tell a coherent story.
Yes.
If somebody asks you about one of those bullet points and you don't have a good answer, then yeah. So if you want to call it 15%, great. Like, just be able to have a very coherent story to be able to explain. Otherwise, it just looks like you're making shit up.
Yeah. What did you actually do?
Yeah.
Actually accomplish? The other thing that's interesting when you're looking at what you're adding to this resume or not is how much of it was team-based.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't want all the bullet points of what your team did.
Yeah.
I don't care what your team did. What did you do?
Yeah.
I've seen that a ton.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, we did this, and you're going to lose a candidacy if you say we in that interview all the time, and everything on your resume is what you guys did as a team. I'm struggling with that, because I want to know, but what was your role on the team then? If you're working in a team environment, perfect.
Sure.
I want to know, great, let's talk about what you guys accomplished, but you need to parse out what you did for the team. Maybe you were the cheerleader. Maybe you kept everyone on track. What did you do on a day-to-day basis to do that? Those are do you have anything quantifiable?
Yeah, because the stupid example that just popped in my head in our industry is sometimes most people that are doing development want to do new development.
Correct.
Sometimes they have a component of support that they have to do, or maybe the job itself is support. And maybe you've been a support person, but you don't want to be anymore. Then you just have to be able to articulate what part of the new development that you've done. Because if you haven't done it, you haven't done it. So that's good. What did you mean by type? Resume length and type.
Resume length and type.
Oh, I put her on the spot, ladies.
You
and
did.
gentlemen.
I don't remember what I said.
Well, we're gonna get to one resume or
but
multiple.
I think you're talking
in a
about
bit.
skill set. Like,
well, no, we'll get there too. But like in regards to the resume length, what we're really debating is how much is too much BS.
Yeah.
What content do you include per job description? And so basically, good rule of thumb is you could do the 15-year thing. I would argue anything longer than 7 pages. Like if you get to 8 pages,
that's
now
so
again,
long.
no one's reading that damn thing.
No.
But if you have the experience to back it up, there's nothing wrong with it per se. It's just at a minimum, start shrinking the job descriptions the older they get. Like, sometimes I've even seen people like north of 15 years, they don't even have a job description anymore. It just says company, title, date, and that's it.
Correct.
And it's just a list of like, I have more experience.
That's what my LinkedIn is.
Okay, good point.
I was like,
right.
Who cares what I did at 24? Like, I learned a lot of stuff, but at this point, like, I should also be doing that in my current job.
Yeah, so we're going to get into the title component of this, but let's talk about the LinkedIn dynamic about this length thing too.
Well, okay, so now 2 things. One, the LinkedIn part of it, but also going back to this discussion, back 10 seconds of like what to include. Okay, if you have 8-page resume and you're applying for a specific job, there's probably 50% of that you could get rid of because it's not applicable.
That's true, but now you're torturing these poor people because we don't want you writing new resumes for every job either. But if you needed a reason to get rid of fluff,
I think you should have a job-specific resume. It is not that difficult. Mm-hmm. You have a master, and then you just pull out what you need, and you send out what is applicable to that job.
Okay, I don't disagree. I'm personally of the opinion that you only go multiple resumes if you have 2 different core competencies that could be split. So first thought is like a business analyst and a project manager. So those are 2 different jobs, but sometimes they can be all in one. And if you were accurately labeling each resume, your quote unquote BA resume might not sell you well enough for this project management or PM job that you're going for, or vice versa. So you could argue that. Or how about this? Maybe you're going for a lead senior position, but you have been a manager supervisor. You have to be careful because you don't want the person interviewing you thinking that you're
overqualified
and or trying to steal my damn job. You have those stuff too, right?
Too. So, I literally have had that feeling in an interview before.
Which is weird. So, right. So, I mean, okay, you give me your thoughts on multiple resumes because you'd be of the opinion that, if you're applying, customize it essentially per job.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't want to go through a 4-page resume that has a ton of jobs that are not applicable to this job. I don't care.
So then the problem is if Manager A looks at you on LinkedIn.
So that's the question. That's our other question.
Right.
Why then, are there gaps? Do you, so there is that. Again, that could come back to the cover letter piece of it.
Which nobody reads.
But
can't say fuck cover letters and then try and give them a reason to look at cover letters.
I know. But there is that reason. I don't know. I personally, I want it to be concise. And we're going to get to this as well, but I want it scannable. I want it to be short.
And by scan, you mean like reading scan, not like scanning a PDF or something.
Correct. Because I don't have time. I want to see what are your top skills, your top projects.
Yeah.
What is it? Why should I look at this any further? I'm not going to page through 8 pages. I'm not doing it. But if it's 2.5 and it's all relevant,
Yeah.
you bet I'm looking at that.
Yeah.
Now, so that's my personal opinion.
Which is also a good reason to use firms like ours, because we know these managers that we're working with, and some of them do have really interesting tendencies towards what you're describing. Some of them are fine-tooth comb, find a misspelling on page 9 and throw you out, right?
Yeah.
And then others are absolute scanners, and they can look at a title and read it the wrong way. So again, subjective. So make your own decision. Here's the problem with your plan from my perspective. You really got to have your shit together. So you got to be like saving different copies of the resume and then like saving it, first name, last name, - client name, because you want to bring that resume to the interview, presuming you get it. Then if they're going to be looking at you on LinkedIn, there needs to be a level of congruency where it matches, which can be tough, right?
Well, I guess when I would go interview, I would bring the full thing. So like for me to get the interview, I'm going to show them all of the relevant shit they need to know.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to show up and be like, now here's my whole story. Because I know they're not going to read it if I don't get the interview. So I'm going to give them, look, I'm qualified. Bring me in. Once you bring me in, I don't know. That's where I'm bringing my portfolio. I'm bringing my full resume. I'm going to push them to look at a website if I've made one.
Or whatever the hell
I'm going to bring guns ablazing of like, here's all of my stuff. But I'm not going to put in that.
So you could do that, writing essentially a pared down Cliff Notes version, and then bring in a full resume to say, this is all of it with more detail. You could go that route. You could specify that to a recruiter that you're working with as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, here's my full resume, and then here's one that I send that kind of has a little bit less wordy to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and you kind of hit it, the head on the
nail on the head. You want to try again?
The nail on the head. Yeah. You hit that because using a recruiter and knowing like what the hiring manager is like, that intel is huge because we are so different. What one hiring manager values versus another is so astronomically different.
It can be tough too.
It's
even for us, and we're claiming to be the ones who know it.
Because some are only care about connections. I know. Some only care about experience. Some are just looking for your personality trait because they want to teach you.
And sometimes you got to flip an interview because you're a Johnny and that's where you went to school. Correct. Which is unfortunate but true. It's the way it works.
That's life. So if you're just looking for a general length, stop worrying about the one pager. Like just
definitely don't worry about that.
Control Alt Delete. Forget that.
Forget the one page definitively.
That we all agree on. Yeah. That's old school. It's dead. Don't worry about it. Don't be a rambler. Don't have a huge long one as well. I think.
Yeah. We see two different types in IT. We either see ones that ramble on wordy description about what they do, but never name drop technologies.
Oof.
And we want them to.
Right.
Then we'll see other resumes that is the exact opposite. They name drop technologies really well, but never describe what they do.
Sure.
So that goes more into the bullets and the skills things later. Yeah. So, but when it comes to length of resumes, gather a few opinions, ask recruiters like us. At a minimum, try and cut out the fluff that you know is fluff, which is kind of your 15%er comment.
Yeah.
And then in addition, just realize that most people aren't really reading anything more than page 1 or 2. Correct. So that's just the reality of it. Mm-hmm. So titles.
This one was an interesting one that you guys
many opinions on this
you guys brought up a few months ago, whatever, here, of the fact that you don't have to use your actual title.
Titles are subjective.
It was mind blowing. My mind went
boom.
Yeah.
Do you know why? And I'll give you the best possible example.
What?
I affectionately love Wells Fargo. I really do. But I'm going to name drop them. They're a massive corporation, so you could be a very particular job title, and in HR, you're labeled as technical analyst number 9. What does that mean? So most people short circuit on titles when it comes to what they think HR says, because here's the basic fear. I don't want to get deep into the job interview process and then they're calling my former employers and then I immediately get disqualified because I said I was a software programmer, but they had me labeled as technical analyst level 9. So ignore that, please. I'm begging you people. Get that out of your mind. That is a non-issue. The title itself should do two things. A, be accurate, and B, effectively sell you. So you don't want to call yourself the CIO if you were the desktop support guy, right? I don't care if you're the only technical guy in your smaller company. It's not accurate and misrepresents you. But if you're referred to as a customer service rep level 2, but your real job is doing desktop support in this example describes accurately what you do, which is hands-on customer support for technical related issues dealing with software and hardware. So you need it to be accurate.
What about calling yourself a lead or a senior when your company did not?
I think that goes back to the can you talk coherently? Because senior in my mind means go to. Senior is the either the most experienced or the one that gets leaned on in the department. They may or may not call you senior, but you would be able to accurately say my experience, etc., supports this. Lead is kind of similar, but it just implies that you have a little bit of supervisory-ish duties. Supervisor and manager are synonymous in a lot of ways, but normally managers can sometimes be the manager of supervisors.
Well, but managers can also be managing a process or people.
Yeah, but you're not accurately a manager if you're managing a process. Part of your duties are to manage a process. You're not a manager. So titles themselves, again, they need to be accurate, but they need to promote you as well. So going back to the supervisory or director related titles we talked about earlier, some of it's your audience, some of it's the company you came out of. There are plenty of companies that they have, there are 8 million people in that company that have the director title. So it might be analogous to a VP in other organizations.
Well, that's what's so interesting is titles have definitely been diluted recently. You can own your own company and be a CEO.
I know.
Right?
I know. And technically true.
And I'm the VP or the chief operating officer
or what
all of it.
You.
I'm the CFO. I'm all those things because I own my own business.
Not really.
No, you're not.
So again, it's what serves you by helping market you to the next role, but it also needs to be accurate.
So sometimes you're underplaying yourself because you're in a large organization with a director title, which should maybe be considered a VP.
Yeah.
And then in others, you're this executive level on a small scale. Well, if you went to a big company, they'd be like, mm-mm.
Right.
So you have to take all of that into consideration of who are you applying to?
Right. Which is why the main thing you do is ignore the what HR called you at your either current job or last job. That's the easiest thing to handle. Then at that point, when you're talking to industry people that know what you do, you guys know what you do. Right? Are you a developer or are you a systems administrator or are you an architect? If you're an admin in IT doing systems related work, you are fixing third level, level 3 issues. But if you're an engineer, you're implementing new technology. If you're an architect, you're designing new technology. So you know in your heart what you are.
Yeah.
So go with that almost always. And then add the seniors and the leads if it's actually accurate. Because it may not be.
All right. So I'm channeling my what I would guess some people are feeling or thinking on this topic of, hey, I'm connected with my previous company. All the employees that worked at my previous company, if I go and change my title, what
someone's going to call BS or
kind of just the stigma of hey, I'm going to be I don't know. That feels funny to me. Like if I go on LinkedIn and go, I'm going to say was the VP of marketing.
Yeah.
Granted, what are they going to do, right? But at the same time, they're not going to do anything, I would guess. But those are connections. Those are bridges.
No, I get your point. My old company, you started as a recruiter, and then if you hit a sales contest, you got the senior title. So that was an earned annual contest title. Senior had nothing to do with your seniority. It had to do with your performance.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't overthink that too much. But the title itself, if you ignore the senior lead, etc., then I would say call yourself a senior if your seniority supports it, and then make your title as accurate to your industry as you can, right?
Sure.
Like I did some financial based recruiting for quite a while, and there were audit senior, tax senior, like different titles. Those are particular titles, and you know that you're in the darn business, right? So you either were that or you weren't. When it comes to leadership over people, it depends, right? Are you going for that? Are you not going for that? Again, do you have that match LinkedIn? At a minimum, it should be pretty friggin' close. Mm-hmm. It kind of has to be. So titles can matter.
Titles do matter.
I would just say at a minimum, don't let the generic HR terminology let you go awry, because that's where most people get stuck.
Sure.
Like, but HR called me technical analyst level 9. I'm like, I get that and all, but that's not what you are according to the industry.
Yeah.
Bullet points and paragraphs in job descriptions. What's your thought?
Straight bullets.
All bullet points.
All bullets.
Yeah.
And
speak from your marketing side about why that's a good idea, because we agree on this wholeheartedly.
Well, the biggest thing being people are scanners. Like, I'm sorry, but they're going to scan. No one's reading a paragraph. No one even reads paragraph in an article that they're interested in, much less the 4,800 or 47 resumes. Doesn't matter. They're not reading it.
It just makes it more digestible,
it's digestible.
In your brain.
So, when you write an article, so coming back to like the marketing piece of it, when we write blogs, when we do anything, we want to break it up with people scan. So you need headers, you need bullet points, you need numbered lists, you need graphs, whatever it is, because people are visual and
they get bored.
And they're so bored. They lose their attention with less than 3 seconds. So when you're looking at what do I include on my resume, again, I'm going to come back to it needs to be greater than 15% of your daily job or like weekly job. Don't include fluff. And for the love of Pete, get rid of the overuse of adjectives of like, and no one is a unicorn. Stop calling yourself a unicorn.
Oh, that's cute though.
Oh, now this might be because I've read so many marketing resumes. I would guess that the technical side of things they're not using that, but oh my God.
We've seen it all.
Oh my God.
I've seen
everyone thinks that they're a unicorn. And I'm like, you're not.
In IT, they'll do administered / architect, insert random bullet, insert random technical skill, right? Like, let's be a little more descriptive. That one, cut and dry. If you have a paragraph-based job description right now, it's easy. Just read it, and when your thought's over on one topic, hit enter, turns into another bullet point. Simple as that.
Correct.
You can always go into more detail on each bullet. You could do sub-bullet points if you need to, and indent them, of course, and make it easy to read and scan. But bullet points over paragraphs all day, every day.
All day.
This last one is the technical skills specifically. We do this a lot in IT. So people at the top of their resumes will have a long-ass paragraph having to do with skill, comma, skill, comma, skill, comma, skill. This goes back to what Amanda said earlier. Make sure that you can tell a coherent story about each individual skill. If you can't, then it should be deleted. This also should act as what I call a key on a map, which means the top part of your resume that is listing technologies, even if you have them broken out into things like operating systems and development languages and all that stuff, at a minimum, you need to make sure that any skill that is listed at the top is mentioned in at least one job description somewhere.
Ooh, that's a good tip. I would not have thought of that.
If you are a Java developer and you list things like Java, Spring, Boot, all the other random stuff having to do with that language, if you have to list it every frickin' job description, do it. Do it. People are keyword searching, Control F crazies. And if they're looking for somebody with Spring, they will Control F and they'll see it first at the top in your skills list, and then they should be able to see it in every relevant job description. I don't care if it's 9 in a row or if you had it in 3 in a row and then didn't for 2 and then it picked up again, that's fine. Just list it so that people can understand where that goes and why it fits. So again, use the skills list at the top as just a key. So, hey, this is what's here. And then everybody should assume that those individual things are listed in subsequent job descriptions below. And if you haven't used it in 11 years, keep it there. It just ends up landing on a job description 11 years ago. That's the way it works. And almost everybody screws this up because people want to know how many years you've done this or where you did it, and that matters. And unfortunately, this is overthought in IT. Last but not least, this to me is so simple, but I'm curious of your opinion. Education. What the hell do we do with education? What do you do with it? What do you like?
I think mine is very concise to show that I just, because now I'm.
Yeah, but where do you put it?
But this is relevant.
Okay.
So all right, everyone, I'm 36.
Oh my God, she's old.
So I graduated at 21, so it's been 15 years.
Good for you.
I know. 15 years. I have it at the bottom.
Okay.
Very concise. It just has my school, my major, and
Day graduated.
I don't
Probably
have
just
dates.
the year.
I don't even have the years.
You don't even have it anymore?
I don't want the years.
Which is okay.
But that's it.
Yeah.
It's the school and my major.
Yeah.
I did it. And
Right.
here was my major.
Right. So my opinion's simple. I only put education on the top if it's bad ass or it's the only thing you have. So if you recently graduated from college and most of your, if not all of your job descriptions are when you worked at Chipotle and when you worked at the golf course when you were in high school, well then yeah, education at the top. The second you walk into school for your undergrad, your blank to present now supersedes your high school. Delete it. Delete your high school immediately.
Yep.
Unless, again, it's all that you have. If your education is phenomenal, I mean master's
and some
degrees,
are.
PhDs, the Harvards of the world, and I'm being a little facetious, but not so much. If it's that amazing, put it at the top. Either multiple degrees or whatever. Otherwise, keep it at the bottom. People do care.
Yep.
If there's one thing, and this is so sad for everybody to hear, but it bears repeating. Nobody cares as much as you want them to. The amount of money that it took and time that it took to get it.
And your work.
So much
It
friggin'
matters.
time. It matters so much. And yet at the same time, no one gives a shit.
No.
We're here in the Minneapolis area. 2 companies come to mind. Medtronic and the state of Minnesota are the ones that require undergrads to work there. The rest of them not only, okay, let's stick with Medtronic in the state. Even if they do require it, they don't even care where your major is.
No.
You could be in IT and you graduated with a degree in ancient literature and they're like, come on in. You check the HR box, which isn't fair, but true.
Yep.
The second thing that sucks is that, nope, they don't care about your GPA either. Like,
Nope.
not even a little.
No.
You could have taken the whole thing pass-fail. You could have a 1.9 in college, and the only thing they care about is whether or not you graduated.
Well, and the sad thing is I'd rather hire a 3.0 than a 4.0.
Oh, a little perfectionist thing going on, or what are you
It's what they affectionately, what do they call it? Shoot, I'm going to blank.
kind of the ones
The
who
something
like,
C, the something C, and I know if you're listening and you know the answer, this
can
is
yell
driving
at your
you.
car
You're
radio or
drive.
your
It's
iPhone,
driving you
whatever.
crazy
Yeah,
that I
don't
can't
know
think.
where she's going with
The
this.
C, fuck.
Yeah, we have Google. We're not going to do it. But basically, I'm presuming it has something to do with the folks that like had to
You
try
socialize.
really hard.
No. You socialize. It's the
okay.
fact of can you hold a conversation? Can you go out and socialize and work a room, or did you sit in your room for 4 years
and hide and get a 4.0?
Get a 4.0?
Yeah.
We don't want those people.
For the most part, that's true. I agree.
Now, maybe for IT, there's certain scenarios where that works. That I think that probably worked more so 15 years ago.
But you'd think in IT, these are really, really smart engineers, people making a lot of money, a lot of six-figure jobs. You would think the school they went to, the degree they took, the GPA they got would matter, and it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's terrible. I'm advising a few of my teenage daughters on this right now, going like, hey, never did I say don't try. I'm just saying it's not as important as you would think it would be, because most employers just don't care.
GPA, not so much, but initiative and like create your own website, projects that you can show. All of that stuff where you can be like, look, I'm in contests and code groups and I'm doing all like if you're doing all that extra stuff.
Or I went back to school, I got a new certification that's related to blah, blah, blah. I'm keeping up with the news thing. That stuff matters.
That matters. And again, not so much your grade.
I know.
But the initiative to do so.
I know. All right, well, that covers our first half topic of resumes. We're going to break into a bunch of stuff that we have not covered yet today on our next episode. We will upload as ready, of course. We appreciate you listening to the revamped version of the Hire and Fire podcast. Thank you for joining me, Amanda, and we will see you guys soon. Thank you for listening to the Hire and Fire podcast, brought to you by Pira Consulting. Please check us out online via LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or at our website, piraconsulting.com. That's PIRA consulting.com.